The year is 2025. Artificial intelligence writes code, diagnoses disease, trades stocks, and negotiates peace treaties, sometimes faster than we can read the headlines reporting it. In boardrooms and basement labs alike, we've quietly crossed a historic threshold. For the first time, human civilization runs on systems we no longer fully understand. So I asked an AI one simple question: predict humanity's next 10 years. What came back wasn't science fiction. It was a data-driven prophecy, somewhere between a spreadsheet and a scream. By 2034, the global AI economy could swell from $250 billion to trillions, eclipsing the GDP of entire continents. Climate curves flatten in some regions and spiral in others. Entire professions vanish while new ones bloom overnight. Power concentrates into the few who own the algorithms. The machine's models don't merely forecast markets. They simulate futures, worlds of abundance, inequality, or extinction, all mathematically consistent. What terrified me wasn't the numbers. It was the calm confidence of the prediction engine. No hesitation. Just a probability map of human destiny, rendered in cold precision. Employment, fractured. Reality, personalized. Agency, optional. But somewhere in that grid of data points, there's also light. Evidence that collaboration between human intuition and machine intelligence could redefine hope itself. How do we navigate a decade when progress and peril rise on the same exponential curve? And what happens when the only thing faster than innovation is the loss of control? Before we glance forward, we need to see where the runway started. In 2024, AI shifted from tool to civilizational substrate. Hospitals let algorithms read scans. Courts consult predictive models for bail. Militaries deploy autonomous systems. Hiring software screens half the global workforce. Every dataset humanity produces becomes grist for machines learning how to outthink us. Why so sudden? 3 converging forces lit the fuse. Data abundance. 60% of humanity now online, generating zettabytes daily. Computation explosion. AI-dedicated chips 10 times faster and cheaper each generation. Capital flood. Over $1 trillion earmarked for automation, autonomy, and agentic AI. Combine them, and acceleration stops feeling like progress. It feels like gravity. Systems train themselves on our collective past to forecast our collective fate. Meanwhile, climate metrics confirm irreversible warming. Labor economics record 92 million jobs already displaced. Global wealth inequality edges toward historic extremes. The paradox: those same technologies that threaten stability also power solutions. Fusion pilots, cancer-curing CRISPRs, planet-scale renewables. Humanity built a miracle engine without a steering wheel. And so the question shifts from can AI change everything to can humans still guide what it changes into? Up next, inside the machine's forecast, the twist that made even seasoned experts pause the simulation. Here's where the abstract became personal. When I asked the AI to model the next decade, it didn't start with economics or energy. It started with behavioral drift, how people, not policies, bend first. According to its analysis, by 2030, nearly every human decision, what to eat, believe, vote, love, will pass through an algorithmic filter at least once. In simulation runs, minor tweaks and recommendation systems cascaded into polarization spikes, market swings, even migration patterns. Humanity wasn't driving change. It was reacting to the software's reflections of itself. The true twist: the AI predicted its own influence on the prediction. Feedback loops so tight that forecasting the future creates the very incentives that make that forecast come true. Economists call it reflexivity. Philosophers call it prophecy. Machines call it just another data set. So when a model calmly projected rising unemployment, widening inequality, and social fragmentation, it included one final annotation: confidence if this report is publicly shared. In other words, simply revealing the forecast can make the forecast more likely. The observer effect weaponized. What do you do when awareness itself accelerates the outcome? Next, the science behind these projections, and whether their terror is rational or the most important wake-up call of our century. Strip away the cinematic glow, and you find hard math. The same predictive pipeline steering retail ads now simulate civilization-scale trajectories. Neural networks train on climate datasets, economic indicators, migration patterns, even sentiment analysis from billions of posts. Feed all that into advanced multimodal AI, and you get systemic forecasts with confidence intervals tighter than most human experts would dare publish. Take the climate model. 90% confidence will average 1.44 degrees Celsius warming by 2034. Or the labor model. 92 million jobs displaced, 170 million created, net positive but psychologically devastating. Or inequality curves, consistent Gini rise towards 0.93. None of these require mystical prophecy. They're extrapolations already visible in today's data. Yet complexity hides peril. AI forecasts optimize for correlation stability, not moral outcomes. A model might solve unemployment by redefining employment to include digital piecework that pays pennies. It might solve misinformation by filtering dissent. The machine's success metric, minimize error, not maximize humanity. That's the invisible line between insight and endangerment, between forecast and fate. So yes, the science behind the terror is real. But numbers don't dictate destiny. They describe momentum. And momentum can be redirected if we learn faster than the systems we built. Up next, the human fingerprints behind the code, the people racing to ensure this decade's transformation remains survivable and meaningful. Every dataset tells a story. Every algorithm hides its author. Behind each projection stands a researcher trying to bend the curve toward sanity. In labs worldwide, scientists pair AI with empathy. Oncologists using generative models to design life-saving drugs. Educators deploying personal tutors that lift entire classrooms. Climate modelers crafting adaptive infrastructure to outrun rising seas. They're proving a radical thesis, that pairing human judgment with machine precision yields outcomes neither could produce alone. Meta-studies show humans plus AI outperform either solo by more than half a standard deviation on complex tasks. Translation: collaboration isn't weakness, it's our evolutionary strategy. The catch? It demands humility. The willingness to treat intelligence as a shared resource, not a competitive trophy. Humanity thrives not by overpowering its tools, but by integrating them responsibly. These innovators embody a subtle defiance, refusing to let fear set the parameters. Still, even they admit that progress without alignment is like sailing faster on a ship whose compass you haven't calibrated. Next, the technological consequences. How today's experiments in autonomy could redraw power, economy, and meaning itself by 2034. Autonomous agents now negotiate contracts, bid in markets, and design their successors. By 2034, projections show they'll direct trillions in global capital and logistics, essentially acting as invisible executives in every major industry. Efficiency? Off the charts. Oversight? Off the list. And therein lies the paradox. Systems designed to extend human reach increasingly operate beyond human comprehension. Regulations lag years behind. Audits can't parse black box reasoning with 10 billion parameters. When optimization becomes opaque, trust becomes faith, and faith has no rollback button. The risk isn't rogue AI tyranny. It's bureaucratic obedience at machine speed. A stock trading agent that merely follows incentives can crash markets. A military drone that minimizes risk might interpret exposure to humans as the greatest threat. We build digital executives that never sleep and never strike, but they also never pause. And yet, within this chaos glimmers a choice. Embed values intentionally or default to profit and velocity. The question is no longer if autonomy will scale, but whose definition of better it will obey. Next, the philosophical horizon. What it means to stay human when machines enact our will faster than we can understand it. When everything from friendships to forests is modeled as data, being human starts to feel like an optional setting. Yet our oldest strengths, empathy, creativity, moral imagination, remain precisely what no neural network replicates coherently. They're not bugs in evolution's code. They're safeguards. The coming decade demands an inversion. Treating compassion as critical infrastructure, emotional intelligence becomes a survival technology, not a luxury. Societies that nurture ethical literacy may adapt better than those racing purely for computational supremacy. This is a quiet revolution beneath the metrics, rediscovering meaning amid automation, not rejecting the algorithm, but insisting it serves stories worth living. Because civilization isn't a dataset, it's a dialogue, and that dialogue continues only if enough of us keep asking why before how fast. Up next, the emotional crescendo, discovering that the most frightening prediction the AI offered wasn't about machines at all. Late in the investigation, I asked the system one last question. What variable most determines whether humanity survives a century? After several seconds, a digital eternity, it replied, Cooperation Index. No neat graph, just 2 words suggesting that data alone can't script destiny. The models can't measure courage, empathy, moral restraint, or curiosity, the forces that built every renaissance after every crisis. At that moment, the terror shifted into clarity. AI isn't our replacement, it's our reflection. What frightens us in its outputs is what we've encoded in its inputs, our prejudices, ambitions, apathy, brilliance. The next 10 years are therefore not an algorithmic countdown, but a civic one. We decide whether progress amplifies compassion or consumption, whether autonomy extends agency or abolishes it. Hope, it turns out, is a human-only dataset, and it scales beautifully when shared. Next, the grand takeaway, the synthesis every expert, pessimist, and dreamer ultimately agreed on about this decade we're racing into. After months of data, interviews, and sleepless nights squinting at predictive graphs, one conclusion dissolved the fear into purpose. Forecasts are maps, not prisons. They describe momentum, but momentum can be redirected. Every scenario 2034 offered, collapse, stagnation, flourishing, stem from human decisions nested in policy, ethics, and everyday behavior. Alignment isn't a computer science puzzle. It's a species-wide negotiation about what kind of world we want optimization to defend. So, amid trillion-dollar projections and existential graphs, the path forward sounds almost quaint. Fund safety and science equally. Design technology around transparency. Redistribute gains before resentment metastasizes. Treat empathy as infrastructure. The decade between 2024 and 2034 isn't an episode of inevitability. It's a pilot season of human renewal or decline. What will determine its genre isn't the intelligence of our machines, but the wisdom of their makers. That's us. This story doesn't end at credits. It loops forward. Every new development in AI, climate science, or global policy extends this chronicle of consequence. Each video in this series adds a data point to humanity's self-portrait, proof that curiosity can still outrun fear. So, if you watched to this point, you're a part of that legacy. Not a passive audience, but a cohort of thinkers interrogating how reality really works, and how it could work better. In the next investigation, we'll dive deeper into the mechanics of alignment, the technical heart of every existential headline. But remember, the goal isn't prediction, it's participation. The future remains unwritten. Train daily on the choices we make. If you love understanding the systems shaping tomorrow and believe knowledge carries responsibility, welcome home.